Hey, NFL and Falcons fans, welcome to another episode of NFL Jocks and Pigskins with Tom Pollen, Chris Smitherman, our producer behind the scenes. I'm Dave Holcomb. I have another great show for you today. Atlanta Falcons had a disappointing fourth quarter last week. We're going to briefly touch upon that, but try and be positive looking ahead to their matchup with the New York Jets, a very winnable game against the New York Jets, but it's kind of hard to predict what will happen really every week in the NFL, but particularly when the NFL plays games in London.
Yeah, particularly because you always have that jet lag factor, and you never know which team is going to be best prepared for it.
Right.
When did the Falcons leave for London?
Good question. I believe it was Friday.
Oh, okay.
I'll have to
Um,
double check that, but I believe they left on Friday.
yeah, that's normally a little rough. So I don't know. You've been to London. You've made the trip, so you know how that is.
Yeah,
Um,
it's 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 hard. It's hard traveling east, as probably most people know, and it's a long trip. You're cooped up in an airplane for a while, and these are big bodied guys. I know they're probably on a nice jet, but still.
yeah,
Um, and then the time difference is just plays hell with your body.
yes, it does.
The best way to do it if you're just a tourist is going over the red eye, and you'll arrive in London the next day from the East Coast. And if you arrive, you leave at like 8 p.m. East Coast time, and then you arrive at like 8 a.m. the next day, and you just stay up as long as you can, and then you're on their time the rest of your trip.
Right, right.
But I don't know if that's the best approach for an athlete, especially if you're arriving Friday and you're playing a game on Sunday.
Yeah, um, especially playing a game that they should win. They really should win this game. I thought they had last week's game in the bag, and they
They
didn't.
did. They did.
I mean, I watched a replay of it, the condensed game on Game Pass,
Yeah,
and really couldn't believe that they. I still can't believe that they lost that game.
I know.
Yeah.
I
Well,
know. I know. Well, we're gonna dissect that loss. The NFL is also planning to play more games overseas, and this is a topic that I enjoy because Tom mentioned I've been over there and I enjoy Europe a lot. So NFL and Europe are two things I like, and it's a interesting talking point for me. We'll talk about that a little bit as NFL tries to continue to expand its brand into Europe. And we have your picks as well for week 5.
we
Always look
do.
forward to that. And some coaching scandals to get to. Urban Meyer was really bad, and we just briefly discussed him last week. We should dive into him more. And
Mhm.
I think Meyer on Friday probably sent a text to John Gruden and said, "Thank you very much for taking some of the spotlight away from me," because now John Gruden is in deep, deep hot water with
Deep.
an
Oh,
email that he sent 10 years ago.
yeah, I know. An email that actually only came out because the uh,
Right.
NFL is brought in all the emails from God. I just all of a sudden I can't talk.
The Washington football team. The NFL is investigating the Washington football team
Yeah,
for
because of the sexual improprieties that went on,
right.
and brought in, subpoenaed all the emails to inspect, and found that one from John Gruden, and all of a sudden it's a mess.
A big mess, and we'll weigh in on that as well, probably in the second half of our show as
Hmm.
we get to some other topics outside of the Falcons. But thank you for joining us this Saturday afternoon. You can tweet at us during the week if you're catching us on replay at TJ Pollen at DM Holcomb. And of course, if you're watching live or on replay, give the channel a like. Atlanta Sports Unlimited on YouTube, on Facebook. Give this video a like on both platforms or either whatever platform you're watching on. Thank you for making us a part of your Saturday or a part of your
Yep.
week. And check out the other videos on the channel. The Atlanta Braves dropped game 1 yesterday, but hopefully they tie up the series today 2-2 or 1-1 in game 2, sorry, but winning game 2. And there's a lot. So there's Brave coverage on our channel and lots of other Georgia sports news.
Absolutely. I mean, it's all covered. You got a lot of content, new content just about every day. So yeah, visit often, like, subscribe, like us. You know, I'd like to be liked. You know, come on, like us. So
Everybody likes to be liked.
yeah. Why don't you give a plug to your book, Dave?
Oh, The Road of
Yeah.
Reciprocity? It's coming out next week. My first novel. Next Saturday.
This
Can't believe
novel.
it's a
Yeah.
week away. So, yeah, sent Tom a copy. I think he's reading it. Chris has a copy. Hopefully he's started reading it. And it'll be out for everybody to check out next Saturday on Amazon.com.
Yeah, good read. So yeah, give it a shot. Definitely.
I guess I should say what it's about. It's follows a U.S. dispatch rider in World War II, and he finds out that his two brothers may be wounded behind enemy lines. Nice, quick one-sentence summary.
Yeah, it is. But a
lot
of things going on. It's a very good book. I enjoyed it.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. So let's talk Falcons.
Yep.
I want to be positive and talk about how this is a very winnable game against the Jets. Then they have their bye, and they got the Miami Dolphins, who have been a disappointment so far. So this season is still salvageable. But these next two games are must-wins for them to make noise in November and December.
Yeah, it is. And they have only themselves to blame for putting themselves in this spot. I mean, the defense just can't seem to hold. You couldn't stop Tyler Heineke. You let him have one of the best games of his career.
I think he's a little better than you give him credit for.
He is. But he's an NFL journeyman.
But they stopped the 2-point conversion, so you think, all right, they can hold on to this lead now. And then not only normally the defense would just give up a game-winning field goal. That didn't happen. They gave up a game-winning touchdown, and with enough time left that Matt Ryan was able to do something.
Yeah, Ryan was able to move the ball. But that's something Ryan does. Ryan is one of the, I think, in the top 5 career as far as game-winning comebacks, fourth quarter comebacks, game-winning drives. So, yeah, you don't want to leave the time on the clock for Matt Ryan, but still, Eric Harris needs to find some hands somewhere. He had a chance to make a couple of big plays, a couple of big interceptions, and I thought the Falcons had their chances to make big plays on defense and didn't do it. Didn't come through.
I thought they had their chances to make big plays on offense too, late in the fourth quarter, and they didn't do that either. It was a complete team collapse, as has been the norm far too often with this team. Last year against the Bears, last year against the Cowboys. Against the Cowboys, yeah, the defense gave up 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, but the special teams didn't recover that ridiculous onside kick. And it didn't come late in the second half, but to begin the second half, the special teams gave up a kickoff return for a touchdown, which gave Washington back the lead at that point. And really, that's why they were within 8 points with 10 minutes to go. Otherwise, they're down by a much greater margin.
Yeah, special teams failed them big on that one. I don't know. The tackling really did not impress me against the Redskins. As I said, I watched the condensed game. And I don't think Oluokun had a good game. He made a couple plays, but overall, I think he missed a couple of tackles he should have had. I think the team missed tackles, blown coverages. As I say, the secondary isn't doing their job. And that's the frustrating part, because you really let McLaurin run free a couple of times, and I don't think they're getting a lot of push. They did get some push in the second half. Dexter Fowler got some good pressure, but overall, Matt Ryan really impressed me. He was the one guy who really he's been impressing me all season.
Right.
Because this guy is he's selling his soul to try and get a victory out there.
Right. And then during the week, he has to combat rumors that he doesn't want to be here. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, really? I didn't hear that.
It was squashed pretty early. Maybe it just didn't make national news. But yeah, I mean, there was a report, I believe, this week that Matt Ryan was looking for a way out, maybe looking for a way out like Julio Jones. And Matt Ryan's wife, who you really rarely see in the news, at least I don't seek out the wives. So in order for them to like be visible to me, they have to be really visible. And she was out tweeting and said, I have a source, my husband, that says Matt Ryan doesn't want out of Atlanta. She kind of made a joke about it, and it was funny. And Matt Ryan brought it up in his press conference that, yep, I've confirmed that her source is right. So,
that's a good one.
Yeah. But yeah, he's playing pretty well. And Cordell Patterson had a career day, absolute career day, scoring 3 touchdowns. And that comes in a losing effort, which is just a shame. And really, I know the last touchdown went to Mike Davis, and I was happy about that. I want to see.
Oh God, that was a hell of a run.
Yeah, I want to see him more involved in the offense.
Yeah,
he can be a pass catching back like Patterson.
Yeah, and it's surprising that he isn't, because man, he bowled over 3 tackles getting into the end zone. He was denied.
Yeah,
that was a heck of a play.
Really impressive run. I have a theory for why he might be having a slow start, but I'm going to have to do more research into it. Okay. But where was Patterson in the fourth quarter?
He wasn't on the field. I didn't see him on the field. I was looking for him because you had made that comment to me earlier in the week. And when I watched the condensed game, I'm like, okay, why isn't Patterson out there? It didn't make any sense to me. He's the biggest part of your offense the entire game.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you don't put him out there. I mean, Davis, you expect him to be the man, but Cordero Patterson has been the man. He's been the guy you've been leaning on.
And Arthur Smith likes using both of them on the field at the same time too. There's no reason why Patterson and Smith can't be out there together.
Right. I didn't get
Davis.
that.
Sorry, Davis and Patterson.
Right. I didn't get that, and I don't know. Sometimes Arthur Smith, I don't understand what he's doing. I mean, I am grateful that he finally let Matt Ryan out of his cage a little bit.
Yeah, they threw deep much more often. Yeah,
it was about time. And the thing about it is, you could see Ryan could still make those throws.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ryan, he was firing bullets in the double coverage and hitting his receivers. This guy has still got an arm. He's not. This isn't Roethlisberger who's throwing wounded.
Oh man! That's a dig.
But he's throwing bullets, and a couple of times. One of the problems I have with them on offense, though, is they still don't have a receiver who can come up with the big play at the right time. Ridley is a wide receiver any team would want on their roster.
Yeah.
He is not the number one. He cannot come up with that big sideline catch, that big catch over the middle. He can't seem to come up with the ball when Ryan really needs him to make that extra effort type catch.
Yeah.
And it's disappointing, but as I say, watching that game, I came to that conclusion. I don't think Ridley is a solid receiver. He's a good receiver.
Mm-hmm.
As I say, I think all 32 teams in the NFL will take him, but he doesn't do what you need that number one guy to do.
I'm glad you brought him up because he was the next guy I wanted to talk about, and he's been a disappointment so far this year. I'm not ready to say he's not a number one wide receiver, but right now, is he a number one wide receiver? No, he's not.
No,
not, and that's part of the offensive problem. You got Cordell Patterson leading the team in receiving yards from scrimmage. He's doing everything.
Yes.
And the guy that's supposed to replace your all-pro receiver, who's going to be an all-pro, is not carrying his weight.
No. And, 2 weeks ago when you missed the show, Mad Mike and I were talking about the same thing. Mike thought the same thing. It's like Ridley has not shown yet that he's ready to pick up the torch and be that guy. And as I was watching the game, I was looking for Ridley. I was looking for that catch that told me that maybe he's that little above average type receiver. I like Allen Robinson on the Bears, or Hill with or Kelsey with the Chiefs, or Stephon Diggs with the Bills. Guys who make that seeming maybe not impossible catch, but
The difficult catch.
yeah, the difficult catch,
Yeah.
the one where you have to kind of stretch out a little bit or reach back a little bit and still manage. And once they get their hands on the ball, they bring it in. These guys who all you have to do is hit them in the hands, get it in the same zip code sometimes, and they're going to find a way to get it.
Yeah.
And Ridley's not that guy, not yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, Pitts looked a little bit better to me last week, but I still think Pitts has a way to go to grow in this game. He's not the dominating presence that we were sold when he was made the 4th overall pick. To me,
No, I agree. Yeah. He doesn't have a touchdown yet in 4 games. I don't think he's being used enough towards the red zone. It'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow, because Calvin Ridley didn't travel with the team.
right?
Russell Gage is injured, didn't travel with the team. He didn't play last week either. So you already got 3 touchdowns from Cordero Patterson. That's probably not going to happen again. So who else gets involved here other than the running backs? The running backs were the only guys that scored last week. So you got to get Pitts and some of the depth wide receivers here. We touted over the summer how great the receiving core was for the Falcons despite the Julio Jones trade. And they're really not making that take look very good.
No. They're not making us look good. Come on, guys.
That's their job. They're supposed to make us look good.
You're supposed to make us look good. We say these things, and you're supposed to follow through. That isn't happening.
So how do you see tomorrow's game shaking out? With no Ridley, no Gage, they're missing a couple defensive starters as well. I believe Eric Harris is going to be out.
Oh, okay. So that's a rough one.
Yeah, I thought he played well last week.
He played well, except there were 2 interceptions he could have come down with, and he didn't.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If you're going to be that special player, you're going to take that next step up. You want to replace Keanu Neal, you got to do these kind of things. He had the ball right in his hands a couple of times, just didn't come up with it.
I still thought, this probably doesn't speak well for the Falcons defense. I still thought he was the best player for them, though.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. That's the thing.
Yeah.
As I say, I think Dante Fowler had his moments. Jones had a few moments. But, I think Eric Harris was the most consistent player on the defense last week, and that's not a good thing.
Right. Yeah. Harris is listed as doubtful. He has a lingering calf issue, so he could play. But doubtful normally means they're not going to play.
No. Normally that means they're out.
Yeah.
So the thing is, what you got is, Zach Wilson actually came up with a good game last week. And after having a lot of rough weeks, it looked like, Zach Wilson was not used to the pro game, not used to the speed.
Yeah.
Was getting a little overwhelmed out there.
Right.
Now, granted, the Titans didn't have A.J. Brown and Julio Jones on the field, which made life very difficult for Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
But
that didn't, that's not why Zach Wilson played better.
Right. Exactly. It's not why Zach Wilson played better. He actually had a very good game against the Titans threw for close to 300 yards, I think close to 100 passer rating. Looked every bit the second overall pick that the Jets wanted him to be when he came in.
Mm-hmm.
And, you could the statistics are still skewed a little bit against the Jets offense. So it's hard to see right now, but the Jets have played some good teams. Okay, so that's difficult. They played the Panthers, they played the Broncos, and the Broncos have one of the best defenses in the league.
Yeah.
It's going to be rough for the Falcons to move the ball. Plus, you got Robert Saleh as the head coach, and this is a guy who had the 49ers defense playing at an elite level. So you can expect a tough defense from the Jets. But the worst thing I could say about this game tomorrow is I'm going to have to get up early to watch
it. Well, me too. And I have been writing the inactive, an article covering the inactives for Falcons games every single week. That comes out an hour and a half before kickoff. So tomorrow, that'll be 8 a.m. on the East Coast.
Yep, that's right. Oh, God. One of the things that disturbs me about the Falcons so far this year, defensive passer rating allowed. They're last in the league. They are allowing a 120.1 passer rating, okay, so far through 4 games. That's just unacceptable.
And they're not exactly playing elite quarterbacks either.
No, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the trouble.
Yeah.
You played Tyler Heineke you made Tyler Heineke look like Pro Bowler. You really did.
Jalen Hurts is having a good start to the season, but Jalen Hurts looked like a Pro Bowler at first week too.
Right.
That's the Eagles' only win this season and that was a blowout, embarrassing loss for the Falcons. And,
yes.
And Daniel Jones has also had a better than expected start to the season, I would say. But again, and the Falcons beat him, but he had a good game too.
He did, right. The Falcons had to work to beat him. Daniel Jones is having a heck of a season. I mean, he's impressed me considering he's a guy I definitely thought was going to be a bust.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
is definitely playing some great football. But, scoring. Teams are scoring at will on the Falcons, and that's the problem. They're 31st in points per play on defense, 31st in points per drive on defense. You can't keep giving up points like they're giving up. And it's net passing yards per attempt on defense. They're 27th in the league. You're letting guys throw all over you. And
so you think Wilson might have a nice day tomorrow?
I think Wilson has the possibility of having a good day, yes. Because this isn't an elite defense he's facing. And I hate to say that to Falcons fans, but they were getting pushed all over the field, their defensive front. And giving up big yards, giving up plays, giving up third down plays when they, should have been making a stop. They're giving up too much. They're 21st on defense in third downs percentage allowed. None of it looks good. And as I say, you saw a Jets team that maybe learned something last week, found out a couple of things about themselves. And you can't overlook that. And when did the Jets leave for London? Did they go early?
I do not know. I'm not sure.
Okay. And I know I'm leaning on that a little bit too hard, making excuses for a team, but.
Well, no, I think it really needs to emphasize that. I mean, it's hard to predict how these London games go.
Yes.
They're really one of the hardest bets. If you want to, this is a segue into your betting segment, that I would assume that your advice would be avoid betting on anything to do with the London games. And I would say that from a fantasy perspective as well. I would, unless you're really in a tough spot where you have to play somebody from the Jets or Falcons tomorrow, avoid them. Don't play anybody from either of those teams. And I'm not saying that Pitts won't score tomorrow or that Davis won't have a nice game, finally break out, or Patterson won't have another huge day. But it's just too difficult to know how each player will respond to playing in a different country, living, staying in a different country, different hotel, being away from home. Is their roster made of players that have been to Europe before? Is it mostly people that haven't been to Europe and they're starstruck by everything that's going on around them? Are they distracted? It's just too difficult to know all of those factors.
Right, exactly. Although I do have to start Patterson. I mean, I just can't sit him.
Well, I mean, he's had a great start to the season. If you're going to start anybody from the game tomorrow, it probably would be Patterson.
Well, as I say, Patterson was my final round pick in a 14-team draft. So
that was a great final pick.
So adding players via the waiver wire is not – it just doesn't work in this league. You can't find anybody who's worthwhile. Although somebody did drop Justin Fields, and I picked him up for my team.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So,
complete opposite
26
scenario.
minutes into the show, and there's our Justin Fields reference.
Yeah. I'm in a complete opposite situation in my 8-team league. I've made fun of myself before that it's my high school league, and I only have 7 friends left from high school, so we can't have a bigger league than 8. And one of my friends, I guess, was frustrated by Justin Herbert's first 2 weeks and dropped him. And I was like, thank you very much. I'll take him.
Oh, yeah.
I already had Russell Wilson and Jalen Hurts, but I'm like, I found a spot for Justin Herbert.
Oh, yeah, right.
And Russell Wilson is now hurt.
Yep.
So I'm like, thank you very much for Justin Herbert. I love Justin Herbert. He's a great young quarterback.
He really is. There's some doubts about him coming into the season. New offensive coordinator, new coach, Joe Lombardi being, his offensive coordinator. And there was some worry about Herbert coming into the season, but I think, the worries are over. He's an NFL quarterback. He's a pro quarterback. Yeah. There's just no doubt about it now.
Yeah, I don't think those worries were valid before the season either, to be honest. But he's proving it now, beating Patrick Mahomes and then Derek Carr, who ESPN wanted to make a Hall of Famer before Monday's game.
Oh, God.
But just Herbert getting the better of Carr and Carr kind of returning to his inconsistent ways. We'll talk more about the Raiders a little bit later in the show.
We will.
I wanted to get to Brian's comment. He says salary cap jail, the main culprit. He's referring to the Atlanta Falcons. And, Brian, I would say for the defense, yes. I think it's very obvious that on defense, they don't have the personnel. Dean Pease is a proven defensive coordinator success. So I would blame the personnel, the salary cap for the defense. But I want to see more from the offense. I want to see more from Arthur Smith. His use of the players, I don't think has been top-notch yet. The players haven't executed as much as they should. I want to see more from Pitts. I want to see more from Ridley when he returns. Other than Ryan and Patterson, as we've already discussed in this first half hour, everybody else has been a little bit of a disappointment or a big disappointment. So, and that's not salary cap concerns.
Right. I want to see Smith keep going with the kind of pass plays that he was running last week, against the football team. This is the first time we've actually seen Ryan airing it out.
Right.
And it was nice to see. And as I say, there's no reason why he shouldn't be airing it out. He's got the arm. We saw, he demonstrated he has the arm. So, but you're right. They weren't able to get Casey back, Neal back. They're both with the Cowboys and both contributing very strongly with the Cowboys on their defense. And that was a problem for the Broncos. For the Falcons, is they couldn't bring these guys back.
Yeah.
And they're paying the price because they're productive for the Cowboys. They're helping the Cowboys win. And you really could have used them here in Atlanta. Having both KZ and Neal would have really solidified that secondary.
Yeah.
Would have plugged a couple of big holes in that secondary that the Falcons you could see are struggling with. There's a lot of blown coverages on the field, and and Heineke was making taking advantage of those, and you're going to have the same problem with Zach Wilson tomorrow morning. If Yeah, I think Dean Pease is very frustrated right now. He's got to be very frustrated.
Yeah, I
But
would
yeah,
think so.
salary cap is the main problem with the defense. They couldn't keep some key guys.
Yeah, yeah. And hopefully tomorrow's game goes better than Atlanta's previous trip to London. That was a game that they lost in the fourth quarter against the Detroit Lions back in 2014. We're hoping for a better result
I was
tomorrow.
about to say you were going really far back for that one because I looked it up. I wanted to see if the Falcons had played in London before, and I'm thinking, okay. Then you started mentioning it. I'm like, man, David's really going back in history for this one.
Yeah, yeah. I remember watching that game in 2014, and that was Mike Smith's last season, and part of why he got fired. They lost that game. They missed the playoffs by a game, and that was it for the Mike Smith era. And that was a bright spot for Detroit. Detroit won a bunch of games, I think, that season late in the fourth quarter, and the Falcons lost that game.
Yeah. I got one other thing I want to bring up first before we move on.
Okay.
It sounded to me, considering that it was a home game, that there was a lot of football team fans in the stadium last week.
Yeah.
It almost sounded like a Washington home game.
Yeah, well, I don't think there were a lot of fans in general in the stands, and it was hard. Admittedly, it's kind of hard to tell because the seats are red. The Falcons fans wear red, and the football team's fans were wearing red. So it was a bit hard to know where the seats were and who was rooting for which team. But it did appear to me like there were a lot of empty seats, and for both the first two home games, we've had a lot of Eagles fans and a lot of football team fans. And I don't know. I was talking to Terrence, our leader here on Atlanta Sports Unlimited. I've been sitting next to him actually at the Falcons games.
Okay.
And I guess I don't want to share too much if he shared that in confidence with me. But he's not sure the Falcons fans are on board with this new regime. And considering it's week 4 of the new regime, week 5, and fans are already giving up, I don't know. I'd love to hear from more Falcons fans about that.
Yeah, so would I.
Let us know what you think about Arthur Smith so far. Do you believe that things are going to get better, or are you already giving up? Is that why there were empty seats or other teams' fans in the stands last week? I would like to learn more about that from more Falcons fans.
Yeah, so would I.
That is a possibility. That is a possibility that's what's happening here.
Well, considering this is only the first year that they've been in place, you got to give Terry Fontenot some time to actually build a foundation, because he's working with Thomas Dimitrov's foundation. He's working with Thomas Dimitrov's problems.
Right.
As far as the salary cap and the salary cap problems that Dimitrov left for him. So I would say you have to give him a little bit of wiggle room for that. You can't come down hard on him and Arthur Smith for dealing with a situation that they were left with. You still have to. You got to give them a chance to do a build and bring people in that they're confident in. Bring in players. I would like to see the Falcons actually get to a point with their salary cap where they can make a decent run in free agency and see who they can bring in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it stood out to me on the broadcast.
It stood out to me in the press box as well. And I don't want to diss the Falcons fans here. We love you guys, but it was disappointing to see that there wasn't more representation for Atlanta in that game. And hopefully that changes when they return home on Halloween is the next home game against Carolina Panthers.
Oh, that's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, it will be.
With another fandom that will travel.
Well, they're only 3.5 hours away too.
Right. So, if there are seats, they're going to fill them.
Real quick, I wanted to talk about the London the international series game expansion. In classic NFL fashion, they've announced that they're going to have an announcement, and that announcement is going to be the release of the three finalist cities that they're considering playing in the future, and those three cities are in Germany. This announcement is going to be on Tuesday.
That doesn't surprise me.
So we've got other things to get to, but real quick, I wanted your take on: do you like this expansion? Do you like more? Are you going to like more 9:30 a.m. games? Are you going to like games in Germany now, because they're going to do this in addition to London and Mexico City?
It's rough, I think, having to go farther east to play a game, to go into Germany. However, remember NFL Europe. Their most successful teams were in Germany. Yeah. Germany really took to NFL football, NFL style football, American football.
Yeah.
So that doesn't surprise me that the NFL would try to go into Germany and see what they could do. I think it's going to be tougher on the teams. So, but the NFL doesn't care about that. This is all about marketing the game, and
right.
Everybody's got to do what they got to do, and but I think the German crowd will be very receptive. I think they will be very excited. I think, it'll be fun. I hope the NFL gives them better games than they're giving London, because they're giving, I don't think they've ever given a good game to London. I mean, this isn't like London getting the Chiefs, against the Bills. This is.
They don't want to give that game up, from the home crowd fans. I understand that. But that's true. If you want to grow the NFL, probably don't want them watching the Falcons and Jets,
or Jacksonville or anything. Well, it was like they were trying to set up Jacksonville as a home team in London for a while. Jacksonville was playing every year over there.
Well, they still are, aren't they?
Aren't they? Okay, so. I haven't looked close at the schedule yet, so real world problems, work, and all that other stuff.
Yeah, I think they're still playing in London, so they will be later this season. Yeah, so I mean, it's a fact of life. It doesn't really matter what we think about it. The NFL is going to continue to expand, playing more games and in different places to try and grow the game.
Yep, exactly. So, this doesn't surprise me one bit, but the players will adapt. I know the players don't like it, but they'll have to adapt. They'll have to do it.
How about you give us your picks for week 5, and then we'll end the show with the 2 coaching scandals.
Well, there's one other thing I want to bring up before we get into coaching scandals. I got a message this week.
Right, yes.
From Lisa Ken, Mike Ken's daughter. And if you folks remember, all you fans, that we made a push for Mike Ken being a senior committee nominee for the Hall of Fame. Well, Cliff Branch did get named as senior committee nominee. However, there is an article, and apparently Mike Ken was among the final 16. First time Mike Ken made it to a final group. So, great. Falcons fans, you came through. You really did. You got to come through again. We got to keep the momentum going. Lisa Ken's very excited because she couldn't believe that his name actually came up. So she messaged me on LinkedIn. She was very, very excited about the fact that he actually made. She thinks he's a good possibility to actually get in now. And I kind of messaged her back. I said it's going to be a long, tough process. Because I remember a few years ago, when Alicia Kramer was trying to get Jerry Kramer nominated by the senior committee, which is ridiculous. Jerry Kramer was named one of the top 50 of the first 50 years in the NFL, top 50 players, and he was the only one of them not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So, I said it's going to be a tough road, but whatever we can do, whatever you need me to do to help. I said, let's do it. But you guys did get him into the final room. Keep that momentum going. Right again, because they're going to be looking at the 2022 class soon, the nominations. Right again. Let's get this guy in. So, as I say, you got the first step done. He's in the room. He's in the conversation. Let's keep it going.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really exciting. She reached out to you, and that, he's one step closer to the Hall of Fame.
Yes. Yeah. As they say, life for Falcons, a player, one of the greats in Falcons history. Stand up and support him. This is one of your guys. This is one of your guys. He was a lifetime Falcon. Stick with him. He needs your help. He busted his butt for you for years. He needs your help now. So stand up for him. Going into my picks. Let's get into the picks here. You're right. Stay away from the Jets and Falcons. And if you're going to bet the Jets and Falcons, get help. Really, get help. One game I'm taking is the New Orleans Saints being favored by 2 points on the road against the Washington football team. The Saints have a very tough defense. The Saints are an up and down team. They're driving me nuts.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to play better last week, and they lost to the Giants.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And they gave they allowed the Giants offense to come alive, but I would say take the Saints. They're one of the best defenses in the league. I would like to see Sean Payton actually unleash Jameis Winston's arm a little bit more, because he's keeping him very much under wraps. And I know you want to keep him under wraps. I know he's got the interception problem from Tampa Bay. He tries to do too much with his arm, but that doesn't mean you can't go deep with him. That doesn't mean you can't make these attempts. It's like the Falcons, with Matt Ryan. Doesn't mean you can't take those shots downfield every now and then. So, and if Winston gets intercepted once or twice, it's not bad. If he's hitting these deep balls and loosening up the defense for Alvin Kamara on the ground, you got to be able to do that. But I think as good as Taylor Heineke looked last week, he's facing a much tougher secondary this week. And I say Saints -2. I'm also taking the Tennessee Titans -4.5.
Yes, Cricket charge more for unlimited 5G. Metro doesn't. Introducing.
It's one of those automatic videos. Sorry about that.
Oh, God, I hate those. Jeez.
Sorry.
Screw you, 5G.
Tennessee Titans.
Tennessee Titans -4.5. They're giving 4.5 points to the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. Jacksonville played well in week 4 on the Thursday night and gave the Bengals all they could handle. And that's a pretty good Bengals team. I mean, it's not a Super Bowl team, but it's a Bengals team that is on the rise. And it looked like Jacksonville, it started figuring some things out. We're playing better. Played a decent offense. Trevor Lawrence looked very good. Oh, they chill Tom. Hey, come on. My God, my own channel is. But Tennessee is getting A.J. Brown back.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to have some better options on offense. Ryan Tannehill is going to have better options on offense. I say take the Tennessee Titans, give the 4.5. Jacksonville, we're going to talk about their problems in a little bit. This is a team, I don't know what we're going to get out of Jacksonville the rest of the year. I really don't. Final game, I'm saying the Raiders are at home giving 5.5 against the Chicago Bears. I'm not saying the Bears are going to win this game, but I think the Bears will keep it tighter than the 5.5 points. I'm looking for a 3 or 4 point game here. Take the Bears to cover this game. They had a new play caller last week. Bill Lazor, the offensive coordinator, started calling plays.
Yeah.
And boy, it looked like a completely different offense. It was amazing what that offense looked like with Bill Lazor calling plays. So, as I say, I'm not saying the Bears are going to win, but I think the Bears are going to keep this one tight. Plus, the Raiders, since 2017, are 2-13 in the month of October. All right, you saw them blow it last week against the Chargers.
Yeah.
Especially when you play the Chargers in Los Angeles, you're basically playing a home game.
Right.
So,
especially the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders are more Los Angeles' team than the Chargers are at this point.
Right, exactly. So, they blew it last week against a team they should have played a lot better against. So take the Bears plus the 5.5 points. So those are my 3 picks for this week.
It's interesting you included the Raiders and Jaguars in your picks. You do that on purpose?
No.
Michelle?
It's just the way it played out.
The way it worked out.
Yeah.
Because both of those teams are dealing with some off-field distractions, to say the least. And Urban Meyer's happened first last week. It was developing around our show last week, actually.
Yes.
Where Meyer was caught on video at a bar with a woman, not his wife, very young woman, dancing on his on his lap.
Yeah.
His hands, you can't really see where his hands are going in the video. There was reports that there was an alternate angle, all these, jokes being made about Meyer. Meanwhile, he didn't travel back with the team.
And that is the bigger, that is a really big problem.
Yes. And I want to, if you only take one thing away from what we say during these 2 scandals, I want to make this point the most important. We're going to have opinions and we're going to have takes on what these 2 men did. Not going to think very highly of them. But ultimately, what matters is what their owners and what their players, how they react to the situations. And with Meyer, it's a little bit different than what's going on with John Gruden. With Meyer, I think he's lost the credibility in the mind of his owner, and his owner is going to let him try and earn that back. But his players, because he's got this 0-4 start, I've seen people argue, well, Urban Meyer is not supposed to be, I don't care if he cheats on his wife kind of thing. Well, that's not the best way to approach life.
No.
But even if that is the case, he didn't put his team first by not traveling back with the team. And if his players don't like that he's potentially cheating on his wife, then he loses the respect of his players and he loses the respect of the locker room. And if that happens, he cannot lead that locker room.
No, he can't.
So it doesn't matter what you think of him and what your morals are. What matters is the morals and the morality that those players have. And if they have lost respect for Urban Meyer and they don't want to play for him anymore, then this is not going to work.
No, it's not. The hell of it is, as I said, Jacksonville looked like they were figuring a few things out last week. They played a tough game against a good team.
They finally didn't turn the ball over. That was really the big thing. But
then your coach doesn't take the team flight back to Florida, and that's just inexcusable in itself. And I know you coached at Ohio State, and
well, I mean, his excuse was, "Oh, I'm going to spend time with my grandkids. I don't get to see them very much." And then he's not with his grandkids; he's out at the bar. So, like that right there is an accountability issue. And lots of former players that are in the media have come out and said they have never, ever heard of a coach not traveling back with the team in the NFL. It's never happened before.
Never happened.
That's not something that I keep track of, but I'm relying on other former players that I've heard this past week say that's never happened before. He's 0-4. he's not going to be working 24/7, but he should have taken the opportunity of having the extra 3 days to prepare for the Tennessee Titans, go back with his team, prepare for the Titans, figure out a couple of more things that they need to do better in order to win a game.
Right.
And instead of doing that, he wants to be with his grandkids, which he should just wait for the offseason to do that. But if you're going to do that,
that's why you have an off season.
Yeah. But if you're going to be with your grandkids, then be with your grandkids.
You know, the hell of it is, from a lot of things I was reading leading up to last week's game, is Meyer didn't have a lot of credibility in the locker room to begin with.
Yeah.
And that's hearsay. But, you know, there's a
lot of people reporting that.
There's a lot of people reporting it, and
Yeah.
a lot of reliable reporters who are saying it.
Yeah.
And saying that he doesn't have the credibility and he's lost some credibility. Well, he's lost all the credibility now because he canceled the Monday morning meeting too.
Right.
He didn't want to face the team. You know, and that just.
And he said that he apologized to the team, but there were reports that he hadn't. That he had apologized to every player, but he did it position group by position group, not in front of the entire team.
You have to stand up in front of the entire team. You want to get their respect back. You want to get some kind of respect back from your players. You got to stand up in front of the entire team in the room and say, you know, this was inexcusable. I made a mistake. That's terrible. Not made a mistake. You know, everybody says they made a mistake. No, he didn't make a mistake. He was just stupid, made terrible decisions. That's not the same thing. And I know everybody comes out, well, you made a mistake. We should
forgive him.
Should forgive him for it. Yeah, he just made a mistake. No, he made a stupid decision. And
look, this is going to be hearsay too. I have not seen anywhere else that, you know, there's a video of another incident or that this is routine with Meyer. But I do think this comes back to he is used to being the king of his castle. He's used to being the highest paid employee of his state because he's the college football head coach of a big university in Ohio and Florida. And he's used to being the king of the state. I don't know how any other way to put it.
It is. And college coaches, that's it exactly. If you have a big time college program, you're the king of the state. You know, what you say goes.
So this is complete speculation on my part. I don't want to spread any rumors here. I just believe that this is probably not the first time he's done something like this.
No.
This is the first time he's been caught.
The first time he's been caught. It was probably relying on people allowing him to lay low. And, you know, he's thinking, well, I coached in this state. Nobody's going to undercut me here in Ohio because, you know, I won national championships with the Buckeyes. So
right.
But, you know, he's in a different world now. This doesn't work that way anymore. And he can't squash things like he used to do as a college coach.
Yeah, right. And that's really the way he's operated from day one with the Jaguars. It's I'm in charge, so I can bring in Tim Tebow. It doesn't matter. I'm in charge. I can bring in, what was the name of that coach, Chad Smith or whatever, that had the scandal at Iowa.
Right.
Didn't care at all. That's the stuff he did at Ohio State. And it was fine in college. It doesn't work here. It doesn't work in the NFL. You have to answer to the media. You have to answer to a fan base that you're not royalty to.
And a fan base you're trying to win over to begin with, because the fan base has really eroded out there in Jacksonville. And that's one of the reasons why he was hired, to try and help build the fan base back.
Right. He was a PR hire.
You know, so it just it doesn't surprise me that this is Urban Meyer. Let's put it that way. It doesn't surprise me.
I thought we'd be talking about this stuff at the end of year 2, beginning of year 3 for him. I did not think 4 weeks into his tenure he would have so many issues, so many credibility concerns that I can't count them all on one hand.
Right.
It's unbelievably bad right now. And you know what? I made the joke at the beginning of the show. I think he's very thankful some of the spotlight's going to be off of him.
Yeah.
Because John Gruden, I think, is even in a worse situation.
He's in a worse situation.
Yeah, I think this is worse because of the race concerns here, the racism, blatant racism in his email that he sent 10 years ago. If you didn't see it,
and I don't care. You can't explain this away. He's trying to explain it away, trying to make an excuse, trying to claim that there was nothing racial about it.
Well,
no, that doesn't cut it.
I agree with you. The one thing I would say back is, well, the problem I had with his apology was first he said, "Well, I don't remember sending it," and then he said, "Well, I'm sorry." Well, so like, what is it? Do you remember sending it? And then he was explaining that he was explaining what the meaning behind the email was, that he was calling him a liar, and then he was like, "But I don't think he's a liar."
Right.
So what are you saying? You're saying a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't make any sense. You were calling him a liar, or you're either making fun of his race. It was one or the other, and he's saying, "Well, I don't remember." His response was, "I don't remember sending it, but I'm sorry." And actually, it wasn't racist. I was calling him a liar, but I don't think he's a liar. That was the apology.
Yes, that was the apology. And as I say, I don't buy a word of it. That's bullshit. He's been a coach for years before that. He's been in the NFL. He knows what racist problems are. He knows these racist tropes. He knows what he's saying. Zozo, come on. He knows what he's saying when he says it.
Yeah.
That's why he can't be let off the hook for it.
So in case you didn't see the email, it came out yesterday, correct? It was Friday that it was surfaced. And as Tom said at the beginning of the show, if you missed it, this is coming out now. I saw some people on Twitter be like, why are we mad about something from 10 years ago? The reason is because this is just coming to light now.
Yes.
This is coming from an investigation into the Washington Football Organization. Right. And in 2011, when he was a commentator at ESPN, John Gruden was, he sent an email to then Washington Football Team president and then CEO, I believe, Bruce Allen.
Right.
And in the email, he was referring to the president of the NFL Players Association, who, how do you say his first name?
Oh, God, I don't.
Well, his first name begins with a D. His last name is Smith. And in the email, Gruden wrote Dumb Morris, which is not his name.
DeMaurice Smith.
DeMaurice Smith. So he misspelled it on purpose, implying that he was dumb, and added Smith has lips the size of Michelin tires.
Yes.
I don't think I have to explain why there's a problem with that.
You shouldn't. You really shouldn't.
I'm sorry that I'm laughing because it's so dumb and it's just so like why are we still having discussions about why this is wrong?
I know.
Yeah.
And there are people like, there are people going out there saying, why are we making a big deal out of this? This was years ago. Because this is the way he feels.
I think there's also people that don't understand why this is racist. They don't understand why it's racist to talk about a black person's lips. It is racist. It's a racist trope that goes back to, I think, the 1870s in media, but particularly popular when blackface was big in the 20s and 30s.
Yeah, you're right.
And so I think I want to make the same point with Urban Meyer with Gruden and emphasize why I think Gruden is in a worse spot, because there's a chance for Meyer to get by because maybe some of his players don't really care what he does in his free time, or maybe he can win back their trust if he starts winning some games.
Yes.
But Gruden, most of his locker room are black players.
Yes.
And I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for them. I can't speak for any black person.
Well, he's also been adamant about the fact that he doesn't have a racial bone in his body, or racist bone in his body. You know,
Larry Orange says, knowing Gruden, I'm not surprised, but he knows better. He should know better.
He should know better.
I don't know. It's extreme.
But it's the fact that he thinks this way. You know, that he thought that way, and you know he didn't change how he how. If that had never come out, he would have still, you know, I don't know what I'm trying to explain. It's just, it's difficult because without going into a complete rant here, it's really, I'm trying to hold my temper.
Well, I appreciate that, I guess. I want to get back to his players. That it reminds me of who was the owner of the Clippers a few years ago? Was it
Donald Sterling?
Donald Sterling. The NBA is a little bit different than the NFL, but the NBA is almost, you know, it's majority African American, black.
Yes, it is.
So there was going to be a revolt if the league didn't do something about what Sterling said. And I don't want to get into, well, Sterling was much worse than Gruden. I mean, they're both bad. So let's not have that discussion. Mm-hmm. But the players were going to revolt. The whole league was going to revolt. Yeah. And they were not going to play for that owner. The whole league isn't going to revolt in this situation. But what will the Raiders players do?
That's the thing.
That's the question.
Right.
And if you have a situation where maybe Derek Carr wants to stick up for Gruden, I don't know if this is the case. I'm just using this as a hypothetical. You might have a couple white players or a Derek Carr who's having a great season overall under Gruden so far this year. Maybe he comes to the defense of his head coach. How is that going to be viewed by the black players?
Exactly. It's not going to be viewed well. It could tear the team apart.
It could tear the locker room. It could tear the team apart. And Gruden is in his fourth season of a massive 10-year deal. And Mark Davis, I know he's an older white man, but I think he's taking this seriously. And I think he might be looking into.
Al Davis would have taken this very seriously too. Al Davis would not stand for this kind of language, kind of thought process from John Gruden. So, you know, it wouldn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me that Mark is taking it very seriously.
Yeah, I think he is taking it very seriously, and I think it could come to the point where the Raiders start looking into, can we fire Gruden for cause and not give him the rest of his massive contract? I think that's on the table. That's not on the table for Urban Meyer. No. It is for John Gruden.
It is, and NFL discipline is still on the table for John Gruden.
Yeah.
Go to Pro Football Talk. Mike Florio has some very interesting. See, Mike Florio is a former lawyer, and he goes into some of the legal proceedings that the NFL and the Raiders could take against John Gruden. And so ProFootballTalk.com, give Florio a read because it's interesting. And Larry Orange asked about what about the Raiders management. Raiders management came out with a statement already disavowing that, you know, they support Gruden and support Gruden Gruden and making the statement. They have come out adamant against what has happened, what Gruden has said, and this thought process that apparently, you know, has become exposed by this.
Yeah.
The fact that you've seen into the mind of John Gruden, and it's not pretty.
The other point I want to make people are saying it happened 10 years ago. Gruden was how old 10 years ago? He was 43.
Yeah.
It's not a situation where he was a young kid and can credit it to just being young and stupid, which isn't a great excuse, but I guess it is at least an excuse.
You know, a younger man, I would say he has the capacity to grow from this. To take that and say, I was an idiot. I have met, you know, I have worked with, I have met, hundreds of African Americans since then. I've become to know them. I know that I was an idiot back then.
Right.
This isn't Gruden. Gruden had already been coaching for years.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. He had already been in the NFL, a league that has majority African American black players, and he still had this thought. He still had this that he can't plead ignorance here and say, "Well, I didn't know better." He knew better. He
knew about these racist tropes. He knew about all what could be insulting when you're dealing with a black man, when you're trying to put him down.
When you're
for racist reasons.
I think things are getting better, but when you're 15, 16, you might not know all the racist tropes. When you're 43, you know them all.
You know them. Because you've dealt with them in the locker room.
Right.
You've seen players go through this.
Exactly. He's not a white person that's been around white people all his life. He was around black people.
Yes. So it's
and he can say, well, this is a one-time thing, and I'll say the same thing that I said about Urban Meyer. Well, is it? We don't really know.
He got caught.
This is the only time he's been caught. Yeah, and there's a report from Mike Florio, article written this morning about 45 minutes before we came on air. The first paragraph: John Gruden email regarding NFL Players Association Executive Director DeMaurice Smith created major waves on Friday, as explained both by the league and the Raiders. Other materials involving Gruden exist. So there's other things that may come out still.
Oh, wow.
According to Mike Florio.
See, I didn't read that. I read a few things earlier this morning, but I didn't read that.
This was out at 11:15 this morning, Eastern time.
Okay. Yeah, there's more to this than there's a lot more under the surface to this, and we're going to be hearing about that throughout next week. And as I say, we're getting what's under the surface. I mean, it's there. You can't deny it. He can't explain it away. This was a racial insult.
Yeah.
Just because he thought it was private doesn't make it any better.
Right. Yeah. It is a little bit. I mean, like, I guess it's the world we live in now, that even things that you think are private conversations, but you send in an email, can come back and bite you. And just, I guess, I'm not trying to make the moral of the story that don't write it in an email, speak it out loud. The moral is don't be a racist, but it is kind of amazing that you really got to be careful with your communication these days.
For the longest time, I thought we were getting better as a society, becoming more open, becoming more accepting, leaving some of these problems in the past. And then Trump happened. And, well, the last few years, it's been, remember Danny Fury with the Hawks, yeah. I'm not as optimistic as I used to be that we're getting better as a society about all this. And it really disturbs me. At my age, it disturbs me that for years I thought things were getting better and things were improving and the society was becoming more accepting, less colorblind, less judgmental, less stereotypical. And the last few years, I really despair for our country right now, the way things are going, because it's a problem and it's not going away. But that means we got to fight this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's absolutely
what it means.
Yes.
You can't let this sit.
Yeah. This, you can't just let this go. So I don't think the NFL or the Raiders are going to let it go. That's my final take.
Yeah. So do I. Yeah, I agree.
Gruden is in big trouble. We'll see what happens.
Yes. Yeah, we will.
Thanks for tuning in this Saturday. We really hope the Falcons could get to 2-3 tomorrow. And if they could do that, they're in a situation where they might be able to make some noise in November. And
Right.
I know I'm putting a real positive spin on the first 4 weeks with that, but I think that's the way you got to look at it as a Falcons fan, at least if you want to be a positive Falcons fan.
You do. Yeah, you have to. You always have to.
Yeah, I think they can win these next 2 games and get to 500, and then it'll be a tough game against Carolina the next Sunday. But at least you got a chance to move back above 500 for the first time since 2017. Believe it or not, that's the last time they were above 500.
Yeah, it's amazing that it's been that long. It really is. So, but stay the course with this group, this management team that they put in place. You've only given them a few months. So realize that they're cleaning up a bit of a mess. That Thomas Dimitroff is let go for a reason. And that, you got to give these guys time to build what they believe is going to be a better team.
Follow us during the game tomorrow morning at DM Holcomb, at TJ Pollen. Chris, thanks for being our producer today. We'll be back next Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. I'm sorry, no, 12 p.m. Eastern time. What am I saying? 12 p.m. Eastern time.
Yep. Have a great week.